ask the AI to help you. Don't be afraid of it. A lot of people were nervous when computers came out. A lot of people were really nervous about the internet. Oh, it's going to destroy jobs, but it just exploded and people got creative. They used it. They leveraged it. We don't quite know what it's going to do for us yet. Face it head on and embrace it and start talking with it. It will amaze you what it's capable of, and it can help you on your path, help you figure out what your path is.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Path Found, the podcast about the real, messy, unexpected journeys that lead us to the work we love. I'm Monica Argandonia, and every week I talk with someone whose story proves there's no single right way to build a meaningful life. Welcome back to Path Found. I'm Monica Argandonia, and this episode continues our series on AI and careers, conversations with professionals across industries about how artificial intelligence is changing their work and what young people entering the workforce need to know. My guest today is Peter Stiefel, a marketing creative whose career spans 3 technological revolutions. When Pete started out, designers built artwork by hand on boards with T-squares and sent it off to film houses to be turned into print. Then in 1990, his company brought in the Macintoshes, and he watched the digital revolution transform his industry almost overnight. Today, Pete uses AI every day, and what I love about this conversation is his perspective. He's seen technology destroy jobs, create jobs, and change jobs, and he's convinced that the difference between the people who get displaced and the people who get amplified comes down to mindset. We talk about what AI does shockingly well, what it's terrible at, why creative thinking still wins, and his surprising prediction about where marketing is headed in the next 5 years. Here's my conversation with Peter Stiefel. Pete, I am so happy to have you here today to talk with you, not only about your career path, but also the impacts that are kind of on the horizon or already there with AI. And so as I start my episodes, if you could just give us a little bit of background and kind of what were you like as a kid? Did you know that you wanted to go into marketing? How did you find your way into marketing?
Well, that's a great question. And I do get that question sometimes. And I mean, I was always a pretty creative kid. I could draw. I found that I could draw. I just loved art class, and I was always one of the better ones in the class, and people would come to me and want me to draw things and do creative things for them. And early on, and I can remember this in grade school, and I just kind of knew that for the longest time. And then when I was a teenager, I visited my aunt who lived in Southern California, and she was in advertising, and she had been her whole career. She was also creative. She was an art director at a big agency in, mid-Wilshire, downtown LA. I visited her, and she took me to see her agency. I took one look at her office. Mind you, it was one of those tiny little art director's offices in a high rise. It was maybe an 8-foot square. It was tiny, but it had a floor-to-ceiling window, a view of the city. It had a bank of about 100 multicolored markers, which I thought was the coolest thing. Think a whole box of Crayola crayons, only, 5 times the size, displayed on this tabletop. And beyond those markers was like a pin board, a mood board of all kinds of ad clippings, pictures, color swatches. I mean, you name it. It was just this work of art, and it went almost floor to ceiling. As far as she could reach, she was pinning things up and like an inspiration wall. And I just thought to myself, this is the coolest thing ever. I couldn't believe it. And how do I do this? How can I do this for a living? I think I was 13, and I really honestly never looked back. She was a huge influence on me, and she was really nurturing. She loved that I loved it. And she was really a catalyst in the beginning of my career. So I would say that's like the first foray into me knowing that I wanted to do something creative. And I didn't really know what it was going to be, whether it was an agency art director, whether it was just going to be a designer or what, but it turned out to be the entry point into that creative world.
So you didn't actually know kind of what marketing was at that point?
No. I had no idea what marketing was. That definitely hit harder when my career kind of started. I started out as a designer. I wasn't really doing marketing per se. I was marketing adjacent, you might say. I worked in the creative department with the marketing department. So I got to know what marketers did and the function of the marketing department. And that was in the mid-'80s after I had gotten an internship at my aunt's agency. After I finished school, I flew out to LA, and that was in 1986. And she facilitated an internship for me. So I did that for like a month and a half. And that was when I started building my portfolio. I had a junior portfolio that I was putting together, and I took these non-accredited creative classes taught by some art directors that she knew. And so I had a creative book to shop myself around. And so I did some research and found out there were a couple of areas near where I lived in the Marina Del Rey area. And a buddy of mine was working at a place called Republic Pictures. It was an old movie house from the 40s and 50s, but they were putting all their titles on video. And that was the home video boom of the mid 80s and the late 80s and Blockbuster Video. And so I started doing video packaging, and that got me into the design world. And they had a marketing department, and I worked with them, and they were working with video distributors. And yeah, as far as, sticking with the creative side of things, that was my first real career move into the creative field as a designer.
So when you first started, what did the industry look like at the very beginning? What was kind of your daily work?
It was very analog, let's say. A lot of different kinds of boards and papers and ways to cut things, ways to fasten things, ways to draw things, create ways to make printed material. It was really a process. You would create these things called mechanicals, which would then be shot by a camera. And the camera would then create a piece of film, and the film would go to the print shop, and the print shop would lay the film on the printer drum, and the film would be separated into the 4 colors, and which was cyan, magenta, black, and yellow. And your piece would be printed, like posters and video packaging, these kinds of things. But you would conceive them on essentially a black and white board that you would write instructions to the stripping company, which it's kind of a funny name for those guys, but they would make the film that would go to the print shop ultimately to make these things real, printed pieces. So it was a lot of pieces of stuff and managing a lot of art supplies. That's a really good way to describe it.
So what, over the decades, I mean, you've been in this business for a while, what are the biggest shifts you've seen before AI?
Before AI, I mean, one of the major shifts that I saw while I was at Republic was they got a Macintosh. That was 1990. I sat down with my first Mac. First one I ever saw was when I was in college, and they had the first Mac, and they had it in our little department, and I saw that thing. And that was another thing I forgot to mention. Once I put my eyes on that and put my hand on that mouse, that was another thing that I told myself, this is for me. This is something I've got to do. And so I convinced them at Republic that they could cut their typesetting costs by 80% if you just get me a Mac. And I wrote up a little piece of paper on how I thought that they could save money, and they believed me, and they bought a machine. And I got going with Photoshop and Illustrator and 1989, 1990, and got them up and running on the Mac. But so that was a huge sea change of how we started to do our work. And in the beginning, it was a revelation because we saved a lot of money. It made my life easier, but then it didn't take long for it to make my life a lot busier because it allowed me to do that much more work in that single hour. So, we've got the Mac. You can do that. You can do that twice as fast, can't you? So I tried for the longest time to tell them that no, it still takes a while, but it's just going to be cheaper. But they didn't buy that for very long. So yeah, that was a huge game changer for me and the way I did my work and the way the industry kind of started shifting because, eventually you'd put your digital files on a disk, the messenger would come get it, take it to the film house, and it just wasn't as analog. It was like the very beginnings of the digital world.
So that transition, was it already at that point starting to replace jobs?
I don't know that it was replacing jobs. I think it was, the computer stripping department, which are the guys that used to make the film from the mechanicals that we sent them, that industry took a hit because a lot of that started becoming digital because you could output film directly from, Illustrator and Photoshop. So those guys didn't have to do all their analog film preparation and cutting and taping and pasting. It just came out digitally. The piece came out fully formed and you could make film straight from that piece. So that really put a lot of those guys out of business. And if they didn't go out of business, they became, what was called a service bureau, which was one of the film output houses that would take the floppy disk and output the film. And then the film would go straight to the printer, bypassing the entire mechanical stage. I'd just do my mechanical in Illustrator instead of on a piece of board with a T-square and a triangle. That was huge, but it did put the stripping industry out on a limb.
Okay. So when does AI first show up in your work? Like when was the moment you realized, this is going to change things?
I would say fairly recently for me. probably in the last year and a half. When I became fully aware of it, when it started to affect the work I was doing, I started to hear everyone talking about it and how they were using it and how remarkable it was and how scary it was. But yeah, for me, yeah, probably about a year and a half. And, fast forward to today, I mean, I use it literally every day, every single day. And I'm still learning about it. I mean, it blows my mind what it's capable of. And, it's scary and yeah, it's going to put a lot of people out of work, but not if you play it the right way, in my opinion. I think it's inevitable. The internet was inevitable. You had to learn to adapt to it.
Right. So, okay, so you use it. So walk us through how you actually use it in a normal week.
So I work at a home improvement company and we sell closet remodels or garage remodels. We have modular products that, our designers will go into your room, figure out exactly what it is you need. You can pick the finish, you can pick the style, you can pick the hardware for any room in your house, garage, pantry, laundry room, you name it, we'll do it. We do a lot of these renders of finished rooms, which are computer CGI images of a beautiful closet, all propped and set up. It's a complete digital rendering. An example of something I would use AI for is to put people in that room, interacting with the room, taking a suit jacket off the hook and looking at it, or a person sitting on the bench inside that closet, or changing the colors of the clothes in that closet to a more summer theme or a patriotic theme for the 4th of July, And you literally would drag the image of the closet before the work you've done on it in its original state, use that as a starting point for the AI as the base artwork, and you literally type a prompt into the AI program that says exactly what you want it to do in normal person talking voice, like you're talking to another person. And the interesting thing about it is you really don't know what you're going to get. So you get the first pass. Sometimes it nails it right out of the gate. And sometimes you got to say, okay, well, I like this and this. These two things are really good, but here's what you need to do better. And here's what you need to do differently. And here's how I want you to do it. And I'm going to drag another reference photo in here of what I mean, and I'm going to show you that. And it is the strangest thing, but the way the software works is once you learn how to use this, it's called node-based. And so you pull in a node that says AI-generated image, which is an image you tell the AI to make based on the reference images that you provide and the text prompt that you write. And you kind of get closer and closer to the image you want by telling the AI how much closer or how far away it is. It's like warmer, warmer, colder, colder. And some problems are a little harder for it to solve right out of the gate, but the way that it learns it still surprises me every time I use it. It's unreal how good it is. And it's still in its infancy, but that's an example of how I would use it, how I use it regularly.
So you talked earlier about, when the Macintosh was introduced and how you actually had to do more work.
Yeah.
Is AI producing more work?
It absolutely is. And it also has turned me into a writer, and not so much a writer, but an editor. If I tell the AI I need 7 headlines that are 4th of July themed with a little bit of a snarky wit to it and based on a small closet in a kid's room, and it's going to be the headline for an email. And then you just say, go. And it gives me 7 ideas, 6 of which usually are kind of, but there's one that it's just perfect.
What do you think it does shockingly well in marketing? And then what do you think it's terrible at?
As an idea generator, it does a shockingly good job. If you give it a concept prompt idea, it literally, depending on how detailed your idea is, and it also depends on how much detail you ask it for. Oftentimes, I will start a prompt by saying, make this prompt more detailed with a colon. And everything I write after that, I can write 6 or 7 bullet points and it will give me 7 or 8 paragraphs because it's detailing the bullet points that I've given it. And it saves me from having to write it. So it's really good at listening to you if you tell it the right things. And it's literally unlimited. You can ask it or tell it to do anything. And you can tell it to generate ideas and have it talk to you like you're a nuclear scientist. Or you can have it talk to you like you're a 10th grader. And it understands. And it not only understands, but it learns.
Okay, but in marketing now, what is it terrible at?
It's terrible at really coming up with novel ideas that are really good. because you can tell that it's borrowing from almost everything. It's coming up with original ideas is it's terrible at. But what it's good at is leading you to an original idea with its almost their ideas. You know what I mean? It's an idea generator, but it doesn't come up with the creative. It guides you to do better creative. That's the way I feel. That's the way I use it. It's really good at that. It's good at helping you hone in on an idea you maybe think you didn't even know you wanted. That's one thing that I'm amazed by, and that's how it expands my creativity by giving me more options and sending me down paths I wasn't expecting.
So if you were hiring an entry-level marketer today, what skills would you look for that you wouldn't have 5 years ago?
If they came in with some knowledge of AI already, obviously, like a hunger to learn it, like some prompt writing skills, some creative prompting, because the only way you learn to write better prompts is to keep writing prompts and ask the AI to help you in any thought you're having, any direction you want to go. What do you think, Claude? What should I do? Blah, 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 blah. Who's not really fazed by, the quote unquote scariness of the AI?
And so, thinking back when you started and the things that you had to do at the beginning, right, where everybody starts out, whether it be copywriting or kind of basic analytics, AI can do all of that in seconds. So how does someone build an expertise in that? Think about some of those jobs as you were coming through and the skills you were learning as you were coming through building your career. And so many of those now are going to be outsourced, right? Because AIs can do it faster and do it well. So how does somebody prepare then? How can they build those expertise in order to be in the position you're at?
It's all about just being able to think for yourself and being creative as a thinker, and it doesn't mean you're creative as an artist. It's just being confident in the way you think about things. And I got a note here, like creative thinking still wins because the AI is not creative. It really isn't. It borrows everyone else's creativity. It borrows from the humans. Ideas are ours. And if I have an idea, I use the AI to grow that idea, to expand on that idea, right? But the idea starts with me. It starts with the person. So show up to an interview with ideas and start asking questions. And, if there's got to be a nugget that a job seeker has that they want to do, and ask yourself or ask Claude, this is what I want to do. What is the best way to go about it? How do I start? And I'm not joking. It's right there for you. And it may take you down a path that you didn't really think about that relates directly to what you want.
I'm a little surprised at how you're approaching this. And so I think that there's a lot of worry, right, from young people of, AI is going to take our jobs and AI is going to replace this and that. And so to hear you're really embracing this. And, you see the positive. And you're not the only one, by the way, in these other interviews I've done in other industries. But I think you've really kind of wholeheartedly embraced this. And so do you think that there are parts of marketing that are genuinely safe from automation, and why?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I know that my current position right now is the company's growing like crazy and they've hired a bunch of these, hot shots. Really, they're automative thinkers. They think from the standpoint of automation and they are digital to the core. It's in their DNA. They were raised on a computer. A couple of these guys that we've hired, these people, men and women, they just think in that digital world. They don't think linear. They think 360. And it's really remarkable. When I get in the room with one of these guys, sometimes he starts talking and the acronyms start flowing and I have no idea what he's talking about. I honestly don't know what he's talking about. And I have to tell him to back up a couple of times. And, Sean, can you kind of talk to me like I'm, but no, don't, because you already are. I feel like it's just starting. The way it's changing marketing is still in flux. I still have to go back to the ideas and the creative thinking and the critical thinking on the part of the human being, the creative mind. So I think people who go into marketing are creative. If they're not, they're going to work with creative people and they'll have creative opinions. The way it's changing, it's just rapid. And like I said, they're embracing this automation, but it really circles back to stripping away all the mundane tasks that allow you to just do great creative concept work as a team, thinking through things and coming up with ideas, with fellow people,
Yeah.
but definitely leveraging the AI to speed away the mundane, I guess, like I said, and get to the nugget, the creative nugget that we're all trying to produce and get out the door and make money. But it is really about speed. It can be really noisy right now. Right now, we're drowning in processes. They're trying to figure out all these automated processes. We've got 5 different platforms in which we speak to each other. We've got Outlook, we've got Google Chat, we've got Slack, we've got Jira, and they finally have narrowed it down to Slack. So I'm thankful of that. We can all just communicate through that now. But yeah, it's really interesting. And I think my situation is a little bit different because they are so leaning into the software, into the really cutting edge ways of automating a marketing department. I mean, it's really kind of amazing. I mean, it's really timely that you're asking me that question right now, because I think they're on the leading edge of reinventing their marketing department right now, and with AI at its core.
So what would you tell a college student who's interested in marketing, who's majoring in it, but really nervous about AI and the future?
I think don't be afraid of it. I mean, it's okay to be nervous. A lot of people were nervous when computers came out. A lot of people were really nervous about the internet. Oh, it's going to destroy jobs, but it just exploded and people got creative. They used it. They leveraged it. They became influencers. And, that's not the only thing people did, but, you could work remotely. You could work with people in other parts of the world. And it literally opened up everybody's world, more than they anticipated. And I think that's what AI is going to do. I mean, we don't quite know what it's going to do for us yet. And yeah, it certainly does take the place of a lot of people. I mean, I can see how it's doing that. And it's hard to give a young marketer really solid, sound advice on that, at least from where I sit, other than do not be afraid of it, face it head on and embrace it and start talking with it and start using it. You will find ways that it will amaze you what it's capable of, and it can definitely help. It can help you on your path, help you figure out what your path is. That's what I'm finding. I'm in the old dog, new tricks phase of my life. It's unreal what I'm learning still today. And I'm very thankful that this company has had faith in us. There's several people that aren't, in their 40s anymore that are doing this stuff, and we're just crushing it. And it's really interesting and it's really kind of fun, and we're not afraid.
So I think you would agree then that there's a mindset that separates people who get displaced by AI from people who get amplified by it.
True. I can see, for those that it has downsized, they've been downsized as a result of the AI revolution. I mean, it's scary and it's intimidating and it sucks, but it's not going away. And so it's really one of those things you just got to face. Like, I was worried that I was going to have to learn how to write code, for the longest time. I'm going to get passed by. And then all of a sudden, code got automated. They figured it out. It's still just object-based now. I don't have to write any of it. I can just learn Figma. I know it's a scary time, but try not to be intimidated by it and just really just jump right into it.
So 5 years out, what does the marketing profession look like? Paint the picture.
I've been thinking about this. I think there's going to be a somewhat of a backlash. Now, this is probably an outlier, kind of a fringe idea, but it's like record albums are coming back. People are writing letters. People have stationery. People are going to slow down. I think there's going to be a real backlash for this pedal to the metal, market to as many people as you can. Forget about quality. It's all about quantity. I'm already sick of it, and I'm in the middle of it, and I see it happening, and I want to slow it down. I want to tap the brakes, and I just think it's going to reach maximum density, and there's only so fast you can reach so many people without the creativity and the ideas being completely lost. Because right now, everyone's website is a scrollable website with 4 different fonts. I mean, come on. Very few creative, engaging websites are out there that aren't built for just that purpose. Everyone's being marketed something all the time. And half of our noses are stuck on our phones for 6 hours a day. That's a whole other podcast.
So what's one thing that you know now that you'd wish you known at the start? Or, what's one thing you would go back and tell your 21-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
I would say there's no such thing as a bad idea. Do not ever be afraid to speak up if you have a thought, if you have what you think is a good idea. Don't listen to the haters. It's so much easier to hate and to spread your hate, and to impact people. Don't listen to the haters. It's just a bot. It's probably not even a person. That's the only thing I can say. I mean, I was a little timid in the beginning, but not, just don't be timid. Just, you're young, idealistic, and don't ever lose that. Because I kind of lost that along the way. To some degree, you got to be practical, but don't be afraid of your ideas.
Nice. Well, you have a kid going off to college. What are you telling her?
I want her to just be wide open. And, I want to tell her, we all have a judgy streak. Don't be judgy. Don't try to always be right. Just be kind whenever you can. Don't always try to be correct. There's not always a right answer. And just try to be open. Just open heart, open mind. And, manage your expectations and just have a great time first. And don't be too hard on yourself. That's what I tell my 21-year-old self also, for sure. Just lead with your heart and just be strong and confident and move forward in the world.
Pete, thank you so much for sharing that insight about
You're so welcome.
Your job. And it is definitely, kind of an unknown that we're going into, and AI is happening so fast. So I think your experience is really insightful and helpful.
Well, I'm happy to share it and happy to come on your show again anytime. It's great. I learned a few things about myself today. Like taking to work with me.
Thank you so much for listening to Path Found. If anything we talked about today connected with you or gave you a new perspective, we'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared the episode with someone you care about. You can also find us on Instagram at Path Found Podcast. To explore more stories, resources, and ways to get involved, visit KeystoneNetwork.org. This podcast is just one part of the journey. At Keystone Network, we're helping young people and anyone figuring it out as they go build meaningful futures one step at a time. A huge thank you to my podcast editor, David Strutt. You can find him on LinkedIn for helping bring these stories to life, and to Elizabeth Miner at Silvermine Creative for the beautiful artwork and web design. And if you're on your own path, navigating the unknown, making a pivot, or simply figuring it out as you go, just know you're not alone. The route may not be linear, but there's always a way forward. I'm Monica Argandonia, and I'll see you next time on Path Found.